Hi friends, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel after 22 episodes this season of Kody, Brown, and Robyn trying to rewrite history filming scenes after the passing of Garrison, pretending like it happened before he passed, and trying to reframe Kody as this loving father that was re-establishing relationships with his kids and making it look like he was getting a redemption arc. The walls came crashing down, and it was a really awkward, eye-opening, appalling, infuriating. I was sad for the family members that were impacted directly, that spoke with Garrison daily, that loved him, that were trying to help him. It was a hard moment to swallow this episode, because all season Garrison had been erased. He was no longer on the show. They didn't talk about him. His final text was to Kody and a group of people from TLC, along with some other family members, saying, "I want to hate you for the good times, but I can't. I miss those days." And that was sent to Kody from his son. And Kody did not respond, and then Kody did not show up at the scene, and then to find out how much he was involved in the planning the funeral, how his wishes were considered, given that he had abandoned his child, it felt, so I can't even grasp to you how infuriating it felt, when a child goes, no contact with the parent because of the way that that parent has treated them, because that parent has shunned them, made them feel bad, called them names, made them feel unwelcome, not allowed them in the home, basically been pushed out of the family, which, what is Kody, did to Garrison. He wanted him evicted from a house. He called Garrison a narcissist. He said he was a jerk. He never wanted to talk to him. In the tell last season, he said that he would punch anyone in the mouth that would bring up Robyn. He and Robyn had McKelty call Garrison to tell him that they weren't going to be a part of the Christmas gift exchange anymore, and they weren't going to celebrate Christmas with him anymore, or anyone else in the family other than their family unit. And Garrison was hurt by that. Garrison expressed that he was mocked by his dad about buying a house when Garrison wanted to buy a house. He was mocked by Kody on the show. When Garrison bought an RV and fixed it up and lived in the RV outside of Janelle's place. Kody mocked that and said Garrison could never do that. He and Garrison had no relationship. Both of them were estranged. Garrison at that point by choice. Kody basically throwing him out. But at the end, Kody gets to decide what happens, and that made me so mad. I felt like the family that deserved to have the say was not the man that donated the DNA to create his life, but those that actually raised him, cared for him, loved on him, and stuck with him through the good and the bad. It felt so disrespectful to me, to his life, to allow Kody a place to play the victim and to act like he was feeling grief. I don't know that he actually felt grief. I really don't, because so many of his words in this episode felt so hollow. He told Robyn while sitting at a fire that he needed to do things differently because he felt like he had more time. He could have done things so much differently. He could spend more time with Garrison, and he needed to reconcile and change things in his life. And then a year later, a year and 2 months later, nothing has changed with Kody and his kids. Nothing, actually. It's gotten worse. It's gotten worse. Garrison's final moments in life, he was angry with his father. No one responded to him. He took his life other than Janelle, who responded to him. And Janelle's pain was so palpable, but I still felt like so frustrated that she had to do this for TLC, and I felt frustrated that, it might have been easier for her to not put her foot down with Kody, to try not to fight. But I feel like I would have if that would have been me, I would have kept Kody completely out of the conversation. He wouldn't have even been invited to the funeral. And then to know that they brought him back to Wyoming to be buried next to the grandmother at the grandma ranch by Kody's dad, specifically knowing that Janelle had a complicated relationship with Wynn, and so did a lot of the kids, and it just felt so odd to me that they were going to bury him. Where Kody came from, not where Garrison was from. He might have been born in Wyoming, but that's not where his life was. I had so many feelings about this. I felt heartbroken for the women, the OG3, that literally had feelings here, that it was obvious they were grieving. I just was so angry that Kody was given this platform, because it's like TLC doesn't want to acknowledge what Kody did, and it's just like so frustrating. And then several siblings sat up on and shared their
experiences, and And Gabriel came on the camera after he found his brother, not immediately after that. Janelle shared the final couple hours of talking on the phone with him, how he had been struggling with alcohol, how he had been depressed and had anxiety, and how she had tried to help and offered help, but there was just nothing she could do. And she and the two older boys, Hunter and Logan, would generally try to tag team and check in on him to get him to respond. And that there were other nights like this where similar situations would happen, where he would make these kinds of proclamations about wanting to end his life. Although she didn't say it, that was very heavily implied, and that he would just fall asleep and he would wake up and then they would hear from him and everything would be okay. And obviously we know Gabriel found him, and Gabriel, it was heartbreaking to watch Gabriel. He made a comment about the kind of person that Garrison was and how he was like this very kind, inclusive person that made everyone feel at ease, went out of his way to make people feel comfortable, and that he truly cared about the people in his life. And he made a comment that that's his idea of what a true gentleman is, and that 100% felt like a direct dig at his father, because his dad, Kody, would always talk about how the men need to be gentlemen, and he's raising gentlemen, and he would talk about how the guys weren't gentlemen and they weren't courteous. And even last week in the episode, Janelle talked about how, Kody always said that, if we're raising our kids to be gentlemen. So the fact that that was last week's episode, and Gabriel said it here, it definitely felt like that was a message to Kody that even before he died, he was more of a gentleman than you ever were, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to think that the boy that was actually a good person was so beat down that he felt like he wasn't good enough. He didn't have enough love. He didn't feel like he was worthy. He felt like he would be better gone because of his illness. And that's an illness, it's not a choice. It was just so hard to watch. I think what really took me back, or was hard for me, was that Janelle spoke about her son and what he was struggling with. Gabriel spoke about his brother's kindness, loving, inclusive actions towards other, being a gentleman, being a deep thinker and feeler, even though he never expressed it. Madison talked about trying to help him, getting him to try to move to North Carolina, trying to get him out of Flagstaff and away from that toxic environment, and almost feeling like a sense of guilt that they couldn't get him to North Carolina, like if they could have just got him in North Carolina, everything would have been fine, and maybe sort of like this guilt that they had left him there. That's sort of how it felt. And Christine spoke about speaking at his funeral and talking about what he was like as a little boy and all the love she had for him. And just the last thing that she said that made her cry at the funeral, which was talking about a line from a movie that when he's gone, you can see him in the stars or to the stars. I can't remember the exact quote. And while the people that had a relationship with Garrison were reminiscing about him and his personality, Kody said not one word about who his son was. Nothing he never said. My son was intelligent. My son was smart. My son was a good man. My son was determined. My son was compassionate, a hard worker. My son was an act in the National Guard. I mean, he didn't have anything to say about his child, or their memories. Nothing. It was like he was so disconnected from Garrison at the time of his death. He knew nothing about Garrison, knew nothing about what he was struggling with, could not speak to the fact that he was dealing with alcohol. Problems couldn't speak to the fact that he was dealing with depression or anxiety. He knew nothing. All Kody could do, the whole episode, was talk about himself and how Garrison dying impacted him, and how now he felt regret for what he had done now. After all of that, it was all about, I can't reconcile this now. I thought I would have more time to reconcile this. It was just, I've never seen someone so disconnected, and it made me realize he didn't know his child, because if you lose a child and you have someone, you know what they're dealing with, you know their love, you know their fears, their struggles, their proudest moments, like, you know them. And Kody knew nothing about his son. That's what I took away. And so for him to be given this platform again made me so angry. His mental health declined during CO, and he started drinking, and she wasn't sure what happened, and I'm pretty confident she knows what happened, but I don't know if she's just trying not to point fingers at Kody and trying to be, mindful of how
she phrases things that could be very well, and I feel like the family uses the as the word to say, when the family blew up, right? When the family split and Kody created the division. But it's pretty obvious what happened during CO and why he might have been depressed, turning to drinking. I mean, not only the isolation and the hibernation and all that took place, but on top of that, That's when Kody wanted to kick him out, blamed him for causing his marriage with Janelle to go into the toilet, called him a narcissist, got mad at him for talking to his wife Robyn, and Kody went on this 3-year tirade about, we need an apology. You're not welcome in our house. You can't come over for Christmas. You're not safe. All of these things painting him like the evil one that's in my eyes when she says in I think that's what she's saying without saying it. I think she's just she's trying to protect Kody. Maybe trying to protect the family, trying to protect Garrison. I mean, she and Garrison in their final text to each other were talking about how he was sad about his dad. He was angry. He was mad. He saw an old picture and he thought it was recent. And then he remembered it was a long time ago and he was angry. And I understand that they don't want to talk about him being upset about the show, but that's what he was upset with, at least that night. And an alcohol-intoxicated mind doesn't help your depression and anxiety. It makes it worse. It makes depression worse. It's a downer. It strips your brain of dopamine, and so then you end up feeling worse. And it can exacerbate your suicidal thoughts and ideation, and it can exacerbate the depression, and it can make it worse. So if he hadn't been drinking that night, maybe, it would have been so different, right? And I think she knows what happened, and I just think she's not saying it. I wish they would say it, Maybe we'll see that. Maybe we'll see it in future episodes. Maybe this is just the first wave of grief and having to process things, because I know things with Kody. There were moments where I felt like, as fake as the fire scene was because it was winter when he died, there was 100% snow on the ground when he passed away in Flagstaff within days. I mean, there was still feet of snow on the ground by their house. So this was not filmed after he died. This is not filmed when he needs to bring him home. It's not. This is a staged scene, but that moment where he says to her, I need to do something different, and it comes in waves, and I feel like I had more time to make this right. It sounded like he almost was going to say he wanted to change and reestablish the relationships with his kids, and then Robyn just says, well, that's what everyone says. They wish they had more time. And it felt like she was just telling him, you don't need to do anything differently. That's just a feeling you're having that, it's because of the grief. Everyone thinks they have more time. And sometimes I wonder if Kody had someone else to talk to, but Robyn, if he would actually do things differently, if she wasn't always trying to manipulate him to not do what she wanted, and manipulate him to not see everyone that's away from her as bad, if he would actually do something to improve his relationship with his kids, because she always makes his kids outside of their kids seem like the enemy, and she couldn't even be bothered to try to cry. I mean, it was so obvious she didn't care, and she was trying to care, but she couldn't. It was very performative, and we know that Garrison hated her, so I was just why does she even get a chance to talk? But I just kept thinking, if Robyn never had entered this family, would his relationship with Garrison ended this way? Would he still have no relationship with his other kids? And I would say, I don't know, but I think probably it wouldn't be the way it is, because Robyn creates a lot of division, and he's a narcissist, and so is she. But she's the reason why they don't talk. And even when he has an opportunity to change, she's well, everyone does that. Just reminding him he doesn't have to change. And then later, she was trying to guilt him. It felt like when he was talking about wanting to take the body, the urn, to Wyoming, it was very, again, awkward how by the end of the episode I felt really angry at Kody, really angry, and I felt really disgusted and disturbed by both Kody and Robyn, because I felt why are we giving them a platform and an opportunity to express about what they wanted for him and all the pain they have for all of the birthdays and all of the Christmases and all of the holidays, because I just kept thinking about the last years of his life where Kody didn't see him at Christmas. They hadn't been together on a holiday in 3 or 4 years by that point. And they weren't going to have the holidays that next year together. And he always stops short of admitting that it was his behavior and his abuse and his verbal abuse and his psychological abuse and his narcissism and ego and just anger and all of that. That made this choice. It feels so hollow, because he never admits that he did that. He says, I keep thinking about what if. But if this hadn't have happened, he wouldn't have said what if. He wouldn't have cared. He wouldn't have a relationship with him. And if he cared and he said, what if? Today he would have a relationship with his kids, and he doesn't. He barely speaks to any of his kids. Hunter doesn't talk to him. Logan doesn't talk to him. Gabriel doesn't talk to him. Savannah doesn't talk to him. Janelle's kids do not talk to him. I don't know. McKelty, even his loyalist daughter. McKelty doesn't talk to him because of what he's done since Garrison's death. He said he was going to change. He said he was going to make more time. He said he was going to make a point of having a relationship, and he didn't. Instead, he made the death about him. And if this is what the family is talking about, why they don't talk to him anymore, I understand if this was the way that they're treating it, Kody and Robyn. Like, if he would have just apologized, this is all. I mean, that was how it felt to me when Robyn said what it could have been for him, as though if he would have just apologized, this could have been so differently. If he would have just understood that, I needed an apology, Garrison could have had this amazing life. Maybe if you wouldn't have been so verbally abusive to him, maybe if you would have been able to manage having kids with other women, and not just have to be with Robyn all the time. Maybe if Robyn didn't spend 3 years playing the victim, like Garrison was a bully to her, if this is how they acted at the funeral, I understand why nobody speaks to them anymore. And all of this is performative for a show. It's all for cameras, because when the cameras aren't on Kody and Robyn days after Garrison was dead, they were in Scottsdale at a steakhouse having dinner with their 3 older children, and they were eating and laughing, and Kody started this episode. How about how he needed to console his children? And it was Gwendolyn that had to ask, in order to come over, and yet his 3 oldest kids didn't go to the funeral. It's just fake. All of it is fake. Why did they get so much of an episode here? Why is this how they remember it? Why can't we just get rid of Kody and Robyn? Like, why does his abuser Garrison's abusers? Why do they get a chance to play the victim? And if this is what we are to expect, for why the family disconnected from them? I get it now, because they'll never change, and they're making his death about themselves. And not once do they acknowledge that he was in pain, that he was struggling, that he was dealing with depression and anxiety. They don't have the foresight to acknowledge that their behavior exacerbated that. And Kody says, oh, the CO stuff was just so important. That's about as close as he comes to acknowledging that he caused Garrison's spiraling mental health. So, what are your thoughts on this video and this episode? Tell me, were you upset, not upset, angry, frustrated? I feel bad for the family members that actually loved him. They should have been the ones that had the final word, not Kody. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.